Hi guys and welcome back today to another podcast episode. It is the Mighty Blues podcast episode number 4. Little bit of a bonus episode, this one, not a full sort of regular episode. We're on our own again, no guest, and that is because Everton, of course, have got a game tonight against Newcastle United at St James's Park. And I wanted to discuss this game today. We will be doing another podcast episode later on this week with a guest where we'll sit down and we'll talk about the Newcastle game, obviously, as it will have happened, and we'll talk about the game against Burnley at the weekend. But I wanted to sit down and talk about Bournemouth and talk about Newcastle before tonight's game, because I didn't want to be sat here midway through the week sort of talking about two games and having to go in depth into two different games of football, because you can get a little bit lost then. And let's be perfectly honest, with Everton at the moment, I think we can all agree that we like to forget games fairly quickly, and we haven't had many games recently that we want to be reminded of. So I didn't want to sit here on Wednesday, Thursday talking about a game that had happened, the Saturday before, when we'd played since then anyway. So I thought we'd sit down today before the Newcastle game, little bit of a bonus episode, just me, as I've just said, sitting down and giving my thoughts and opinions. Obviously I did a little instant match reaction after the game, which was received well and is definitely something that I'm thinking of bringing back. I had a few people ask me why I did an instant match reaction and asking me, what's going on. I thought you were stopping this. I thought this was the whole reason of starting a podcast. And it wasn't just instant match reactions that were the problem, and the reason we decided to change the format on the channel. It was the volume of content and the need for consistency in order to be successful, and everything going on at the football club at the moment. It just become too much for me, one person, to be able to handle. But I quite like doing instant match reactions. I quite like, turning on the camera after the game and giving, 10 minutes of my instant thoughts and feelings. And I know a lot of people like to see those because they're the, the emotional videos. They're the ones where I'm speaking from the heart. They're the ones where, my emotions are high often, and what comes out of my mouth in those moments is often how I'm feeling at the time, as opposed to having a couple of days to be able to, sort of calm down and articulate it a little bit more. So I think I am going to continue to do the instant match reactions. I'm not promising one for every single game, because there will be games this season and next season and in following seasons where obviously I'm a little bit busy, or I'm, not available to do a video, or I've had to miss the game for whatever reason. So it may not be every game, but when I can do them, I definitely will look to do them, because I enjoyed it, and it's not too bad if I can just sit down, hold my phone up for 10 minutes, rant and rave, and then know that I don't have to think or speak about it, for a couple of days. So if you did enjoy that video, then thank you very much for watching it, and I hope you did enjoy it. Obviously, it was another absolutely horrific defeat on Saturday, and I suppose we should start there, because ultimately we've got a game to look forward to tonight, and we will be discussing that a little bit later on in the episode. But we should start with Saturday, because it was once again another massive waste of time, in my opinion, and that might sound a little bit harsh, and some people mightn't agree with that, but that's generally just how I feel about watching Everton at the moment. And it's not just because, we've got problems with financial fair play and profit and sustainability and all of that. It's not just because, the ownership situation is an absolute mess at the moment, and we don't know our arse from our elbow in terms of who's going to be the next owner, whether or not 777 are going to get approved. What happens if they don't get approved? Does Macheri then stay in place? Does Macheri even want to stay in place? You add all of that together, and it makes a pretty bleak, glim situation for your football club, doesn't it? And the only thing you can really hold your hopes on then, and sort of hold your hat on, is the hope that the football team can go out on a Saturday and at least have a go. At least put a bit of a performance in. Nobody's saying we expect them to win every week. Nobody's saying we expect to walk out of every single stadium in the country with 3 points, and if we don't, then it's an absolute disaster. But we at least expect them to put a performance in which makes us a little bit excited, gives us a little bit of something to look forward to, takes our mind away from the bleak reality of the rest of the football club, i.e. the seemingly never-ending takeover, and obviously the seemingly never-ending profit and sustainability situation, and with potential points deductions and potential charges coming out of our ears at the moment, it seems. But we haven't got that. We haven't got that. Watching Everton Football Club at the moment, it's a really unique situation because I can't think of many other things in this world that I would openly do that I didn't really enjoy and wasn't really getting any enjoyment out of, yet still persisted to go and do it week in, week out. And that is very much how I feel about Everton at the moment. There is a world in which all of this background stuff can be going on in, and the future of the football club can be in doubt, and we can all have fears and anxiety and stresses about that while still enjoying the football on the pitch, while still enjoying the fact that we have a go and players, want to play for the badge and, etc., etc., etc. But we haven't even got that at the moment. As I said, Saturday again for me was just an absolutely horrendous game of football to watch. Not only did we lose it in the way in which we lost it, which I think might be the most Everton situation in the world. How many times have we seen that happen? How many times have we seen Everton give a goal away through an absolutely stupid mistake late on in a game and ultimately lose out on, be it a point or be it 3 points? We saw it at Brighton a few weeks ago when we did actually perform quite well and the game plan seemed to work, and yet we still managed to throw it away in the last couple of minutes of the game. Saturday was much different to that Brighton game. I don't think we deserved anything on Saturday from the first minute throughout to the 90th minute, to be perfectly honest with you. And given we equalised very late, I remember thinking to myself at the time, we don't really deserve this. If we walk away with a point, we don't really deserve it. But most other football teams in the world would have taken a point in that game that they didn't really deserve, and they'd have probably sat there and gone, poor game that, we weren't very good, but you know what, at least we didn't lose it. Never happens with Everton, does it? There's always, just when you think this can't get any worse, there's always a moment that makes it 10 times worse. And, as I said, before the goal had even gone in, it had come up on my phone that we'd conceded, and it was almost poetic. Like I said in the instant match reaction, it was almost poetic. Seamus Coleman, the longest running player at the football club, a player that we've all, I think, been wanting back in the team over the last couple of weeks or so as he's been returning from injury. I think we've all would prefer him in there over Ben Godfrey or Ashley Young or Nathan Patterson at the moment. And, he comes back in, he does okay in the game, he manages himself relatively well, and then that happens towards the end. And Everton at the moment is that club that just when you think things can't get worse, they seem to get worse. And, I thought 2 years ago we'd hit rock bottom when Rafa Benitez come in and we were heading towards a relegation battle, and I remember standing outside of Finch Farm, cheering on the players leaving the training ground to go to play an away game. I remember, being at Goodison 2-3 hours before a game in the pissing down rain to cheer them on, and I remember thinking, I've got to do this. I obviously I'm going to do this because it's not going to get much worse than this, and I need to be there, to support the players to get through it, because ultimately if we can get through this, then we'll be all right. And it's mad to think in that 2-year period of time, Everton have gone from battling relegation with a number of relatively decent players in there, capable players like Richarlison. Of course, we had Luca Dean in there as well for a little bit. All to what we are now, which is, not only are we fighting relegation, but we've now got profit and sustainability breaches coming out of our arse, which lead in points deductions or other punishments. We've got an owner who very clearly is checked out and doesn't really want to be here anymore, and has effectively said that he's ready to give up and move on. We've got new owners that are in the process of taking over. However, there is numerous concerns about them for various different reasons, and therefore that is a big question mark. It's such a mess at the moment, and I just want to get that absolutely clear, because I don't want this to become a anti-Sean Dyche show. I don't want this to become it's all Sean Dyche's fault, he's the reason we are where we are, because ultimately it isn't. It really, really isn't Sean Dyche's fault, and I do understand and I do appreciate those fans that say, well, listen, if Sean Dyche wasn't here, then it'd just be another manager who'd come in and we'd have the same problems, because the problems stem from the top of the football club, and I absolutely agree with it. I mean, we sit here now in April and Everton haven't got a board. By the way, Everton's previous board were moved on. The majority of them were moved on before the season had even started. And we're now at a point where, with, less than 10 games to go, Everton have got 9 games to go, 8 games to go after tonight. We still haven't got a permanent board in place. The takeover has gone on for, 3 months longer than expected, 2 months longer than expected, and still doesn't seem to, be coming to any form of conclusion anytime soon. It's an absolute mess, and people are absolutely right, 100%. That isn't Sean Dyche's fault, and those issues off the pitch that would remain at the football club regardless of whether Sean Dyche is here, are not through the fault of his. They're through the fault of years of mismanagement, years of just disgracefully ran business, by the owner, by the previous CEO, the previous chairman, and everybody else that was involved at Everton Football Club over the last few years. But what absolutely is the manager's responsibility, and what absolutely is the manager's fault, is the performances on the pitch. Because whilst, like I've said, whilst I appreciate we haven't got the greatest squad of players in the world, and whilst I appreciate our players aren't particularly brilliant footballers, I get that and I understand that, and I sympathise with the manager in that sense, because people are right. 2 years ago we had a much better squad than what we have now. Even a year ago we probably had a much better squad than what we've got now. Our team, our squad, the quality of the players that we have at our disposal has gotten worse and worse and worse over the last 2 years. And that is why we've been in consistent relegation battles. So I get it, I appreciate it, I understand the the manager hasn't got, some of the best players in the world to work with. But what he has got is a core group of players that have shown at times they're capable of playing decent football, and they're capable of, winning games of football if they're confident and if they're believing in the plan and if they're believing in the manager, and etc, etc, etc. We saw it earlier in December. I mean, a lot of people like to look back at Beto's goal against Newcastle at Goodison Park. Ironically, obviously, we played them again tonight, but Beto's goal against Newcastle at Goodison Park, I think it was something like 20 odd passes before the ball went into the back of the net, and I think the video's being shared on social media at the moment, and everybody's talking about how good it was to watch, and how good of football we were playing, and one such football, and moving it round and playing it up, and that all stemmed from the same team that we're seeing now going 4 months without a win in the Premier League. And like I said, I appreciate the manager hasn't got all of the the tools at his disposal. I appreciate that he's being given an incredibly difficult job, and I appreciate that it's very much a thankless task for Sean Dyche, and I understand some people have got the mentality of, I'm not really bothered what happens as long as we stay up, that's okay with me. I just can't sit here and defend a manager who has gone 4 months without a win in the Premier League and has now equalled our worst record in 30 years. The last manager to do that was Mike Walker, and I've heard footballers talk about Mike Walker who played under him, players like Neville Southall, and I've heard fans talk about Mike Walker who watched his football team. I was too young to watch. I'm sure a lot of you listening and watching now will have remembered the Mike Walker days, and every time you ask somebody, whether it be a fan, whether it be a player that played under him, whether it be somebody else at the club, whether it be a neutral, you very generally get the same answer. It was a bleak time for the football club. It wasn't very good. The tactics weren't very good. The manager didn't really, know what needed to be done, and the fans didn't enjoy it. We're now in a situation where that record has been equalled. Yes, it's a very different situation given the security of the football club, of course, but it's still incredibly bleak. And that falls on the manager. It does. And the biggest problem I have with Sean Dyche, believe it or not, isn't even the fact that we've gone 12 games without a win. Isn't even the fact that the last time I seen Everton win a game of football in the Premier League, my Christmas tree was up. It isn't even solely the fact that the performances of late haven't been particularly great. It's more the fact that he isn't changing anything. And I said this on last week's episode, and we'll talk a little bit more about the the game in itself in a second. But I said this a little bit on last week's episode. it's a huge, huge risk for Sean Dyche, that Bournemouth game. It was a huge, huge risk for him because he could have done one of two things. He could have stuck to his guns and continued playing the way in which he's played for the last 3 or 4 months with the same team, the same system, the same tactic, if any, because I'm sorry, I watch Everton at the moment and I'm not quite sure there is a game plan. I'm not quite sure there is any tactics. It just seems like it's lump it up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and see what happens. Or he could make a few changes, change it around, bring a few players in that maybe haven't been given massive opportunities recently, change the system, change the formation, and have a go. And I think had we have done that on Saturday and lost 2 or 3-1 because of a lack of confidence or because of a lack of quality or whatever it might be, I wouldn't be sitting here criticising the manager, because I'd come out and say, well, do you know what? He tried something different. At least he had a go. At least he made a few changes. At least he surprised us a little bit. All right, it didn't work, but at least he's tried something different. But he's not. He's doing the same thing week in, week out. And that is incredibly worrying for me. Because A, it tells me one of two things. Either A, he doesn't know how to change it. He hasn't got a plan B. He doesn't know what else to do. He doesn't know what other tactics to adopt. He doesn't know what other style to adopt. Or B, he's just not that arsed. And he's just there, taking the money, happy to take the wage, knowing that his job is secure because, people are right. We haven't got anybody there to sack him. We probably haven't got the funds to sack him either. So he's just sort of plodding along, doing the bare minimum, and, sort of just taking it day by day. I'd like to think it was the former than the latter, because I'd like to think the manager absolutely 100% is committed to doing the best for this football club. But it's worrying and it's concerning when we're doing the same thing every single week. And not only are we now not getting results, but we're not really getting performances now either. And that performance against Bournemouth was absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. And yes, we may have nicked the points, in the last 5 minutes if it wasn't for a silly mistake. And the manager can come out all he likes and talks about how, we should have had a point and we've let ourselves down again. But was a point really good enough in this game? Is playing for a point really good enough at this stage of the season, when teams like Forest and Luton and Burnley and Sheffield United, as poor as these teams may be, as poor as their form may be, and as much as they may be in a very similar situation to us form-wise, they have a go. I've watched Luton numerous times this season. I've watched Sheffield United numerous times this season. Very rarely have I been bored. Now, they mightn't be winning, and some people might say, well, it doesn't matter. If they have a go, they're not winning games. That's fine, I get it. And I'm not sitting here saying, I'd rather be Sheffield United or I'd rather be Luton. But what I'm saying is, I just like Everton every now and then to have a go. I just like Everton every now and then to, maybe instead of playing for a draw, maybe play for a win. Maybe, maybe the manager should bring Beto on and put him next to Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the 60th minute rather than the 80th minute when we're losing 1-0. Maybe you should bring him on when it's 0-0 to try and change something, to try and proactively go out and win the game rather than wait to concede and then react to try and get something out of it. Because that's how you end up losing games of football consistently. And that's what we're doing at the moment. I thought both goals we conceded on Saturday were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. The first one, firstly, Coleman allows the cross to come in, which is really, really poor, especially from somebody of his experience and his his ability. You expect better from Seamus Coleman, and Solanke's effectively got a free header. What I will say about the team selection on Saturday is, does anybody know why Ben Godfrey stayed on the pitch after half-time? I think Ben's had a few, and by a few I mean a couple of decent games at fullback of late, and by of late I mean in the last 6 weeks, where he's been capable. He's not being great, but he's been alright in games that we've drawn or in games that we've had lots of chances in and not scored. But within the opening 15 minutes on Saturday, he was getting ran ragged. And you could tell they were targeting that area in the pitch, and he just looked like a headless chicken for me for 90 minutes. He just ran round like a headless chicken. He was often out of possession, which created chances for them. And the options, the manager's got Seamus Coleman there, obviously, come in, right back. The manager's got Ashley Young there, who I don't particularly think is a great player or should be starting for Everton, but I think he's a more capable left back than Ben Godfrey. And I'm just not sure what the manager's thinking when he makes a lot of his decisions. Like I said, the first goal is really, really, really poor. But even prior to that, it wasn't like we were particularly great. It wasn't like we were in good form. It wasn't like we were, winning the ball back or creating chances or, testing the goalkeeper. We weren't doing any of that. We grew into the game a little bit as it went on, as the first half went on before they scored the opener. We grew into the game a little bit. And we obviously should have had the penalty. And I think the penalty is a big moment in the game, because if we get it and we score it, so potentially it's a completely different game. And it is a penalty. It absolutely is a penalty. There's no doubting it. There's no getting around it. There's none of this, oh, well, there's barely any contact, that shouldn't be a penalty. Garnacho literally was given a penalty for the exact same foul the last time Everton had played a game of football. So why it wasn't given on Saturday, I'll never know. Well, I will. It's because Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays for Everton and Garnacho plays for Manchester United, and Manchester United get penalties if they ask for them, and Everton don't get penalties even if it's a blatant foul. Not sure why the referee didn't go over to the monitor as well. Not sure why VAR didn't insist on having a look at it. Isn't that literally the purpose of VAR, to look at things that the referee may have missed? It seems at the moment like VAR is just being used when the referees, have seen a situation. So, for example, the referee's given a foul, VAR checks to see if it's anything more than a foul. Referee's given a penalty, VAR checks whether or not it is a penalty. Again, this one, contact in the box, player goes down. 2 weeks ago, literally the same thing, penalty given. This time, not even looked over, not even given a thought or a one breath to look at. None, just waved on and moved away. But in these types of situations, I sort of look at what more we can do. And we've had lots and lots and lots of refereeing decisions that have gone against us in the past. We've had lots and lots of refereeing decisions that have gone against us this season that there's nothing more we could have done. There's absolutely nothing more we could have done. It's just either blatant corruption or it's blatant disgraceful refereeing. This one, I think we could have done more. I think when you go down in the box and you feel that there is being contact, and it may not necessarily be the most obvious foul in the world. Dominic Calvert-Lewin obviously felt that there was contact, otherwise he wouldn't have gone down. He wouldn't have dived, he wouldn't have thrown himself on the floor. He's not that type of player. So he's obviously felt the contact and he's gone down. Now what I think's happened is he's gone down, he's looked at the referee's waved it away, and he's probably thought, what's the point? What's the point? He's not going to give it, it's not going to get checked. I'll just get on with the game and not moan. When really, what's happened there, in my opinion, is the referee has gone, I haven't really had a good look at that. And he's not really getting in my face. He's not really asking for it. He doesn't seem persistent that it is a penalty, so I'll just move on and I'll just ignore it. And that's what happened. And that's exactly what happened with VAR. Because there was no action from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because there was no reaction, because there was no look of disgust or shake of the head, or there was no urgency from Dom to get to the referee to say, hang on, what's that about? It was ignored and moved on by everyone. Players, managers, referees, crowd, commentators, everyone just moved on from it. And it's like, hang on a minute, that's a penalty. That is a penalty. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you might go, the referee hasn't seen it, so there's not much we can do, move on. That is the whole point of VAR, is to look at those and go, no, hang on, you've missed something there. And are we really in a position now where that only happens if players make a fuss? Because if that's the case, then you can't complain when players get in referees' faces, because players will be looking at it thinking, well, if I don't get in his face, he's not going to have a look at it, and we're not going to get the decision that we deserve. So I do think Dom should have been in his face. I do think Dom should have, even if he doesn't. And when I say get in his face, I don't mean in an aggressive way. I don't mean be standing there screaming, shouting, swearing, having a go. Just get up there and say, whoa, 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 whoa. That needs checking. That's I've been tripped over there. Can that be checked? And then, as soon as Dom does that, then a couple of other players come over and do it, and then a couple of other players get the wind, and you've got Tarkowski who gets wind of it, Seamus who gets wind of it. It will be checked then. If you've got 4 or 5 players surrounding the referee asking for a penalty, it will 1,000% be checked. 1,000%. There is no way the VAR officials and the referees would say, no, we're not even going to look at it. We're not even going to take a good look at it if there's 4 or 5 players surrounding them. They would. And had they have taken a good look at that, they would have had to have given a penalty, because it's being given, that challenge is being given as a penalty all season for various different football clubs. Like I said, Manchester United got one 2 weeks ago against us, ironically. Or is it ironical? Is it ironic, or is it just Everton? Are we just Everton? Are we just that team that, everything happens to, and sometimes an opposition team might get a penalty? We won't get the same penalty for the same challenge, the week later. That's just what happens, isn't it? But, yeah, we should have had a penalty, and I don't think anybody would disagree. And I don't think anybody could disagree, because it was so blatant and it was so obvious. But the goals we conceded themselves were so poor. As I said, the moment we conceded that opening goal, I thought we'd grown into the game. I don't think we were dominating the game. I don't think we were the better team. I don't think we were, by any sense of the imagination, exciting to watch. That's another one of my biggest issues with this Everton team and with Sean Dyche at the moment, is we're just boring. We're just absolutely boring. Like I said before, it feels like every game is just a chore. And if it was anything else in life, you wouldn't bother, because it doesn't bring any enjoyment. It doesn't bring any excitement. It doesn't bring any positive emotion. It's just like you do it because you've got to do it. And that's on the manager, because of the style of play and the systems. And when it works, you sort of take it, because you go, well, all right, I'll put up with this because it's working and we're winning games. When it doesn't work, it becomes a huge issue. So, yeah, we concede the first goal. Again, like I said, poor defending. And from that point on, did we pick ourselves up? Did we go and make a couple of positive changes? Did we go and attack? Did we go and get at them? Did we go and try and win the game? Did we go and try and put it on their toes? No, not really. We huffed and puffed and jogged around, and the manager waited for far too long to make his substitutions, as always. And then when he did, he brought on Ashley Young before he brought on a centre forward, despite the fact we were losing, which again doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then we do get an equaliser, a lucky equaliser, it has to be said, because it absolutely was a lucky equaliser. There was nothing creative about it. There was nothing fantastic about it. Ball comes in, Bournemouth's goalkeeper throws it at Beto for some reason. Again, Bournemouth's goalkeeper had a really, really poor season. I've watched him a couple of times, and he's made a couple of big mistakes. Made one at Goodison, ironically, for Jack Addison's goal. And Beto's tapped it in. And I'm sitting there thinking, right, we've got probably less than 10 minutes now to see this game out. We don't really deserve a point, but you take it. You take it, all day long. Of course you do, especially when you're in the situation Everton are in at this time of year. You take it. And literally, what do we need to do? We need to see the game out 10 minutes maximum, professional, keep your heads, don't make any silly mistakes. Seconds later, 2 minutes, a minute later, they go up the other end. Ball comes in. Absolutely no Bournemouth player within, I don't know, 15, 20 yards of the goal. Pickford doesn't come out and collect it. It bounces off Seamus Coleman and goes in the back of the net. Two of our most experienced players, 2 internationals, 2 players that are well established in the Premier League, well established at an international level, making a mistake that if an 11-year-old made on a Sunday afternoon, you'd probably say that's not good enough. It's poor. It's poor. Don't know why Pickford doesn't come out and claim the ball. Don't know why Pickford doesn't come out and be braver and be a little bit more responsible. And it's a little bit unlucky on Seamus's part. I get it. It's coming at him fast. He's not got much time to respond. But, with balls like that coming in across the box at that speed, I just think you do your best to stay away from it. The last thing you want is to try and get a touch on it, because it's coming at you that quick at such an angle. It's near impossible to control and then do what you want to do. So you'd almost best just staying away from it. Didn't. It bounces off Seamus. It goes in, and we've lost another game. And that's when the fingers start to be pointed, and I think they rightfully are pointed at the manager. And I said it on Saturday, and I'll say it again. I've got no issue admitting this. If it was up to me, and Everton were in an ideal situation, which we obviously are not in an ideal... Well, if Everton were in an ideal situation, Sean Dyche should be staying forever and ever and ever, because we'd be winning the league every year. That would be an ideal situation, wouldn't it? But if Everton were in a better situation, both financially and with the ownership of the football club, I think Sean Dyche's time at the football club would be up now. Because we can talk all we like about XG, we can talk all we like about points deductions and ownership issues and problems with players and players not being good enough, etc, etc, etc. But ultimately, as a football manager and as a Premier League manager, your job is to improve that set of players. Your job is to get the most out of that set of players. And I know for a fact, as bad as this playing squad may be, I get it, I appreciate it. It's not a great playing squad. It's not filled with unbelievably talented players. It's better than what it's showing now. It absolutely is better than what it's showing now. I had somebody on Saturday evening tell me on Twitter that Pep Guardiola wouldn't get anything more out of this Everton squad than what Sean Dyche is getting, and I find that completely baffling. Because I think there is a number of managers in world football that would get much more out of this squad than what Sean Dyche is getting, and I'm not completely blaming Dyche. I agree, the players aren't very good. I agree, various different things are going on, confidence of the players, etc, etc. But he has to take responsibility, and at the end of the day, we can argue it until we're blue in the face. We can argue it until the cows come home. The responsibility of the manager is to set that team up to win games of football. And Everton haven't won one in 4 months. Everton are now on our joint longest winless streak in 30 years. If we lose today, or if we don't win today, which is very possible considering we're playing Newcastle at St James's Park, it would break the record for our longest winless run in over, however long, over 30 years. That is enough to sack the manager. Now, he won't be sacked. I get it. I know I'm going to have loads of comments. What's the point in even talking about this, Cam? Because he won't be sacked. There's no one to sack him. We haven't got the money to sack him, etc, etc, etc. I get it completely. I'm not sitting here saying he should have been gone by now. Why isn't he gone? This doesn't make any sense. I get the reasons why he hasn't been sacked. I get the reasons why we probably can't sack him. But that doesn't mean I don't think he should be sacked. I do think he should be sacked. He won't be, but he deserves to be based on the form now. Now, what Sean Dyche needs to do is see this as almost a blessing for him, because if it wasn't for Everton's absolutely horrific position, with financial fair play and with obviously the lack of owner at the football club, the lack of board at the football club as well, which is something that I think gets overlooked. Not only have we not got an owner, but we've not got a board. The board members are literally just there so that we can say to Companies House and whoever in the government here, we've got these names. They're not actually doing anything. They're not there to do a job. They've got no authority at the football club, clearly. So the manager should look at this and think, do you know what? I'm lucky to be in the job here, because if this club was a little bit better managed, I wouldn't be in a job, with no wins in 4 months. So he should use this as an opportunity to change something. He should use this as an opportunity to try something new. And the fact he hasn't tells me he doesn't know how to, and he's incapable of doing. And if I sit here and in 2 hours' time, when the team news gets released, and I see Jordan Pickford, Ben Godfrey, Jared Brandtwaite, James Tarkowski, Seamus Coleman, Onana, James Garner, Doucouré, Harrison, McNeil, Calvert-Lewin, then I'm sorry, but he is literally proving to us he hasn't got the ability to make changes. He hasn't got the ability to try something different. And whilst he continues to do the same thing, we will continue to lose games of football. We got away at the start of the season with the XG thing. Oh, yeah, we lost, but our XG is much better than the opposition team. Yeah, we lost, but we were unlucky. And I get it. I understand. It's not all on the manager. He's absolutely right when everybody's saying, but what about Dominic Calvert-Lewin being terrible this season? Absolutely terrible this season. I don't think it's fully on Dom to blame, because I don't think Everton's play in any way, shape or form to Dominic Calvert-Lewin's strengths, to be perfectly honest with you. But you're right. He's had chances this season. He's missed. You're right. I've said it all along, said it all season, said it from the first week. Jack Addison is absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And we'd be silly to give Leeds £5 for him. Never mind 20 odd million or whatever he wants. When I said that earlier on in the season, people told me I was silly and how good he was and he was this and he was that, he's the other. He's not. He just runs around. And fair play to him. He works hard. He gets about the pitch. He has a go. But quality-wise, he's terrible. Dwight McNeil this season, terrible. I get it. I understand it completely. I understand it. However, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think this Everton squad is filled, and maybe this is just a footballing thing these days. Maybe this is just modern day footballers. I think this Everton squad is filled with players that are confidence players. Players that struggle to pick themselves up when they're down. Players that struggle to see the wood from the trees when they're in a bad run of form. We haven't got a lot of leaders at the football club, clearly, or we certainly haven't got a lot of leaders that leaders of the past, shall we say, players like your Roy Keanes or, players like that who would drag players through games, pick players up by the scruff of the neck, drag them through. We had loads of them, back in the day. Jagielka, obviously, was captain at the football club for years, but you go back, Lee Carsley, Tommy Gravison in the midfield, even Wayne Rooney when he broke through at such a young age because of what he demanded. Because of his quality, he naturally led and improved because of his demands. We don't really have much of that at the moment at the football club. And it's a problem because these players at the moment look like they are on absolutely they're rock bottom, it feels like, and they don't seem capable of picking themselves up. So then that falls on the responsibility of the manager to do that. And if he does that with a change of formation or a change of personnel, or however he does it, he needs to figure out how to do it, because he can't just keep consistently going, right, let's do the same thing as we did last week, boys, because it didn't work last week. We lost last week. If I'm a footballer and I'm going into a game and we haven't won for 4 months, and my manager says to me, let's do the same thing as we did last week, I'm thinking, no, we've not won for 4 months, and that was the same thing we did the week before. All of a sudden, you start the belief in the manager, it becomes less and less. Maybe the subconscious effort becomes less, because you're thinking, well, this isn't working. We know this isn't working, but we still want us to do it every week. I don't know what it is, but something needs to change, and it needs to change on the manager's point, because it's not good enough. It really, really isn't good enough at the moment, and the performances, the results, the excuses, none of it is good enough. And as I said, if Everton were even 20%, 15% better ran than what we have been, he wouldn't be in charge right now. We'd have been sacked by now. So the fact that he's still got a job, he needs to use to his advantage, and he needs to make changes, and he needs to try something different, and he needs to come up with a plan B, because his plan A isn't working. Or Everton Football Club need to come up with the funds to remove him and bring somebody else in, which is the less likely, isn't it? Because, it seems impossible for Everton to do anything right at the moment. But yeah, I just don't think it's working at the minute. I really, really don't think it's working. And if I'll be honest with you, and people will disagree with this, and this might be a bold thing to say, but I've never hidden away from my true opinion, so why now? I think barring a run of maybe 8 games where we I think we won 6 and maybe drawn 2, or won 5, drawn 3, whatever it was. Barring a run of 8 games in sort of late November, December time, we've been terrible pretty much all season, haven't we? We started the season being told, well, it doesn't matter that we lost because we had a better XG than the opposition, and that will come to fruition. That will work in our favour. We then lost the week after, same thing, week after, same thing, and we were all getting a little bit frustrated. Then We put a couple of good wins together. We beat Bournemouth at Goodison, who are, by the way, Bournemouth are the prime example of how quickly things can change around in football. I watched Bournemouth at Goodison in, October, September, and I remember thinking they're one of the three that'll go. 100% they're one of the three that'll go. They were absolutely horrific. I think the manager went his first 9 Premier League games without a win. They were terrible. Look at what they've done now, currently sitting 13th in the Premier League, 38 points, 16 points above Luton, who sits 18th. Absolutely safe with no issue whatsoever, and have been for quite some time, with a striker that's scoring goals every week. I watched them in September, October, can't remember when it was, and thought they're destined to go down. They are terrible. And look at how quickly they change things around. But barring that period late in December, we were told early on in the season, it'll come good. It did come good. We won a few games in December. We did well. We performed well. But it hasn't worked since. And I don't think it's acceptable to say, oh, well, it worked in December, so it'll automatically, it'll work again, because it might, but it mightn't. And if it doesn't, we'll be sat here relegated at the end of the season thinking, why didn't he just change something? Why didn't he just do something different? Why didn't he just, put somebody else up front, or change the formation, or change the tactics a little bit? Maybe we'd have stayed up. And I fear we'll get to that stage. I do fear we'll get to that stage, if I'm being perfectly honest. So yeah, as I said, for me, again, if it was up to me, the manager would be removed and we would bring somebody else in, because I don't think he's good enough. But it isn't going to happen, so we've ultimately got to suck it up, get behind him, and get behind the team, especially considering we've got a really, really important game coming up within the next couple of hours. Another thing I want to talk about before we do go on and talk about that game against Newcastle later tonight is tension amongst fans. There's a lot of tension amongst Evertonians at the moment, and it stems from everything that we're witnessing it used to be a week-to-week basis with Everton when I was growing up, and we weren't very good at times. You used to worry at the weekend. You used to have a shit weekend. You used to have no social media, none of that. So you'd only really worry about when Everton played, and if Everton lost, you'd have a terrible week. If Everton won, you'd have a great week. Now, Everton lose at the weekend, you wake up the next day thinking, great, don't have to think about that for another week, and there's another news article. And then you wake up the next day, there's another news article, there's a points deduction, there's the potential new owners are in a court battle with somebody else, and it just feels like every single time I pick up my phone, there is a massively negative event surrounding Everton Football Club, and that is part of the reason why I had to change the format of this channel, because it got me down that much and it hurt me that much that I'd started to completely lose grip of reality and what is important in life and what isn't important, and I was focusing far too much on the unimportant things, which is why I made this whole change, which is why I'm sitting here today doing this episode. But that tension is quite clear and it's quite obvious and it's quite apparent within the Evertonians, and whether that comes in the form of people arguing on social media, whether that comes in the form of a negative atmosphere within the stadium, whatever it comes in, we need to find a way as a fan base to knock it on its head. And that is much harder, sort of done than said. I appreciate that. I understand that. I mean, I can't just come and sit here and say, let's not worry about Everton, let's just forget about it and let's just look forward to the future, because that doesn't work like that. This is Everton is my life, Everton is your life, Everton is, it's our lives, it's our livelihood, it's what we do, it's what we, it's the football club that we love. It's not a case of just saying, oh, well, don't worry about it, and then everyone going, all right, I won't. But one thing I know for absolute sure is the arguing amongst fans, and it's not just arguing. Used to be able to have a debate on social media and here I'd be able to say, here's my point, somebody else would be able to say, here's my point, and we'd be able to go, all right, don't agree with that, but fair enough, everyone's entitled to their opinion, let's see what happens. Now it feels like if you have a different opinion to someone, you're the worst person in the world. Like I said, my opinion the other day was that Sean Dyche isn't good enough for Everton Football Club. The amount of stick, and I don't want to say abuse because I didn't take it like that, but the amount of stick and negative comments I got from that was baffling, because I was sitting back thinking, We've not won a game in 4 months. We are now on our longest winless run in 30 years. And I'm sure if I would have asked them same people how they felt about Mike Walker's time at the football club and how they felt about, the performances and the results under Mike Walker, they'd say they were absolutely terrible and not good enough. So what's different here? Forget the off-the-field stuff at the moment. The off-the-field stuff obviously has an impact, but the off-the-field stuff doesn't have an impact on the fact that we've not won a game in 4 months and the fact that the manager persists in doing the same thing week in, week out, despite the fact it's not working. That's got nothing to do with FFP or the previous board or whatever. That's on the manager. In the same way as that the FFP situation and the ownership situation has got nothing to do with the manager. And I just feel like there's tension at the moment. There's been a lot of stuff, going on over social media over the course of the last few days, and it just feels like we are in danger of turning on each other a little bit, and that would be the absolute worst thing in the world, because if we're going to start turning on each other as Evertonians, then we may as well just pack it in now, mightn't we? Because what's the point? What's the point in us going every week supporting the football club and getting behind them if we're not even on the same page as fans? We may as well just knock it on the head and forget about it. We can't be doing that. Nobody's saying don't have a different opinion to somebody else. Nobody's saying don't have a strong conversation about it on social media. Put your opinion across. Of course, that's why I do this, and I often get people who've got a different opinion, and I'll have conversations with them. But it's getting to a point, I think, now where because of the tension, because of the anxiety, because of the stress, it's leading into almost like a civil war between the fan base at times. Depending on the opinion that you've got. And that's not good. And that's definitely not going to help us and get us out of this situation. So we need to firmly put a stop to that, in my opinion, as Evertonians, and sort of look forward to sticking together. Even if we don't have the same opinion, even if we don't, share the same thoughts and feelings, we share the same overall goal, which is to see Everton become a success. And one thing I will say is if Everton ever do lift a trophy in my lifetime, which touch wood they will, I know full well we'll all be feeling the same thing. Me, everybody watching and listening to this, every other Evertonian in the world will all be feeling an immense amount of joy, an immense amount of pride. We'll all be absolutely buzzing. I cannot wait for that day to happen, because I think Everton social media will be unbelievable. Going out in even going in the city of Liverpool, I just think everything will be a vibrant, more better place if Everton were to finally become somewhat of a success. So we all know what, the goal, and we all share the same common goal. So let's not get too twisted. I appreciate tensions are high and opinions can be, very volatile at times, but we need to remember that we're all in this together. We all support the same football club. And I just think it's gotten a little bit out of hand a few times. I've seen from, on the outside looking in, and I've seen personally, it's got a bit heavy at times when it didn't need to. And the last thing we need is to be fighting amongst each other and arguing amongst each other, isn't it? Let's discuss Newcastle then before we finish up. Obviously, Everton playing another game of football tonight, which I'm sure you're all as ecstatic about as me. Will I be doing an instant match reaction, you ask? Quite possibly. I don't want to commit to it because it's obviously a late game, and to be honest with you, I don't know whether I'll just fancy going straight to bed. But the plan at the moment is to do a little 5-10 minute video after the game just to give my thoughts and feelings. And who knows, maybe Everton will surprise us. Maybe Everton will come away from the Northeast tonight with a fantastic 3 points, and we'll all be able to cheer and celebrate and be absolutely buzzing. Obviously, it will be an incredibly difficult game. Newcastle currently sit 8th in the Premier League, 43 points, 29 games played, 13 wins, 4 draws, 12 losses. Obviously, nowhere near as strong of a season as they had last season. They've got a lot of injury issues at the moment, and there'll be a lot of players unavailable for today's game, which typically may, that might fill a team with confidence. That might have filled the fan base with confidence going into a game against Newcastle. They've got lots of injuries, lots of players out. Not Evertonians. I think there's a consensus amongst Evertonians at the moment that they could play 12 stewards and they'd still beat us. But just in terms of their injuries, ahead of today's games, Fen Botman is currently out injured. Lascelles is out injured. Obviously, Tonali is suspended. Lewis Miley out injured. Callum Wilson out injured. Joe Linton out injured. Nick Pope out injured. Callum Wilson is a big one because he's often scores against Everton and does really, really well against Everton. So that's one that may give us an advantage. Anthony Gordon is obviously suspended. He got a red card in the last game. Kieran Trippier out injured, or certainly has been out injured. May feature Livramento out injured, and Almiron and Matt Target both a doubt as well. So a lot of their big, names, first team players that would be in that team if they were fit, are currently unavailable. So it will be a weakened Newcastle United team. It's still a very, very good Newcastle United team. We saw, them 3-1 down at the weekend against West Ham to come back and win it 4-3 and obviously eventually hold on with 10 men, which is big for them because I watched, funnily enough, I was watching the first half of that game and it went to 3-1 to Manchester United, and my girlfriend turned around and said to me, can I lash Coronation Street on because this is probably going to end 3-1 and you're going to be watching Everton all night and then probably be fuming at Everton. So I said, yeah, go on, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. 3-1 to West Ham. I didn't think there'd be much chance Newcastle to get back in it. And then I checked my phone an hour later, and all of a sudden they've won 4-3, and that'd be a big result to them. Obviously, it'll fill them with confidence after a couple of losses. One in the FA Cup, obviously to City, a loss to Chelsea in the league as well. Prior to that, they did beat Newcastle. They did beat Wolves. Lost to Arsenal, drew with Bournemouth, won at Forest, drew 4-4 with Luton, of course. After Luton again were comfortable in that game. I think they were 4-1 up in that game, and Newcastle brought it back again, and a big 3-1 win at Villa as well towards the end of January. So, obviously they're a very good side, Newcastle. They're not quite as comfortable as what they were last season. They obviously finished in the top 4 last season and had a fantastic run, but they've got a lot of other mitigating circumstances. Europe, they've been in the Champions League this season, and although it didn't go the way they wanted it to, it will have been a really good experience for them to have been in that. And they're still having a decent season. They're still on course to finish in a European position. And even with the plethora of injuries that they've got, they're still capable of putting performances in and coming back in games as they showed at the weekend. Yeah, I'm sure if you've watched this channel for a number of years, or certainly for a sustained period of time, you will know that I haven't got the greatest of love for Newcastle United Football Club, and I don't think Newcastle United fans have the greatest of love for me either. I've got nothing against them personally. I've got nothing against their fans personally. I just think Newcastle are a football club that certainly seem to believe they are bigger than what they are. Again, that might wind a few people up, but when you've not won a league title since before the war, you can't really be coming on and talking about how huge of a football club you are. But anyway, no, look, they're in a good position at the moment, Newcastle. They've had a fantastic last couple of years. Some Newcastle fans will come on and say, you're just jealous. Yeah, I probably am just jealous, yeah, because, your club is in a position where you can play in the Champions League and you can sign players seemingly freely, and even though FFP is going to stop you from signing any more, but you're not going to get any points deducted. So yeah, I probably am jealous, and I'm not hugely looking forward to this game, because even though they've got that whole list of injuries that I've just spoken about, it doesn't fill me with any more confidence that Everton will be able to get a result. It doesn't fill me with any more confidence that Everton will turn up and put a performance in tonight. Hopefully, I'm wrong. One thing I really want to see is, like we just said earlier, I want to see change from Sean Dyche. I want to see a different system. I want to see a different style. I want to see a different tactic. I want to see different personnel. I don't want to see the same thing as I saw on Saturday, which was the same thing I saw the week before. Even if we may have performed well at times in that system, we may have had a lot of chances. It may have been the players' fault. We haven't been able to take those chances. Even if that's the case, we still need to see something different, because we've gone 4 months without a win, and that simply is not good enough. Am I confident that will change tonight? No. But as I've said many a times over the years, and as I said at the start of this live stream, at the start of this podcast, Everton often do things you don't expect them to do. And more often than not, they're bad things. More often than not, they're things where you're thinking, there's no way we can throw this away. And then we do throw it away. But, at times, Everton are capable of pulling out a huge, huge win when we don't expect it, and then that ultimately being the catalyst for a change in form. And that's all it needs. And that's the one biggest positive I would take out of anything to do with the football club at the moment, and out of anything for this game, is sometimes you only need that one win. And then all of a sudden the players are much more confident. All of a sudden the players have got much more belief in themselves. All of a sudden the players are thinking, do you know what? We've gotten over that hump of bad form now. Now let's go and focus on this win and build on it. And, like the Brighton game last season, the season before last season? No, it was last season, wasn't it? Who'd have thought we'd go to Brighton last season and win in the way that we did? None of us. Absolutely none of us. But we did it. So who knows? Who knows? I'm not confident, and I'm not holding my breath for anything. But I do think, as much as it feels like we are, we can't see the wood from the trees at the moment, as much as it feels like there's no way out, I think, as I've said before, the longer we go without a win, the pressure adds. If you lose a game, the pressure doubles. If you draw the game, probably adds, 25%. The moment you win, that pressure comes down massively. Even just one win, and I'm not saying one win will be good enough to get us out of it, or one win and everything will be fine, but a win would be huge, absolutely huge. And if we win tonight, think about this. We win tonight, massive win, everyone's buzzing, confidence is there. As I said, there's not a rivalry with Newcastle, but there's certainly a relationship between the two sets of fans, certainly one on social media anyway. We win tonight, we go to 28 points, which would put us above Brentford and 2 points below Crystal Palace. We've then got Burnley at Goodison at the weekend. Now, for me, I know this might sound disrespectful, and I know people might say, what's Everton's right to beat Burnley, this, that and the other? If Everton can't beat Burnley at Goodison Park, then we may as well pack our bags and get ready to head to the Championship, as far as I'm concerned. So if we go into tonight, come away with a result, win that game, and then beat Burnley at the weekend, not only would that put us on 31 points, which would currently put us above Crystal Palace, significantly behind Bournemouth, it has to be said, but it would take us nearly 10 points away from the drop, given, on the assumption Luton don't pick up any points between now and then. But it would also be 2 wins on the bounce, which would be huge, huge. And if we win tonight, I think the confidence going into that Burnley game is through the roof. I think it's through the roof. If we don't win tonight, the pressure going into that game is through the roof. Or if we lose tonight, more off. If we get a point, maybe not, but if we lose tonight, the pressure going into that Burnley game is through the roof. So we can either go into it with the confidence through the roof or with the pressure through the roof. And ultimately, the manager's got to try and find a way for it to be the former, because we don't want to be going into that Burnley game having lost to Bournemouth, having lost to Newcastle, and needing to win that, because it's, I can't imagine Goodison to be a very cheerful place if that's the case. Just before we leave, Everton obviously have had their second hearing for their second potential breach of P&S. We currently await the outcome. When we get it, I don't know, but as soon as we get it, we'll be doing a video discussing it, so don't worry about that one. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Does only take a second, as I said. Hopefully, we'll be back with an instant match reaction a little bit later tonight, and then we'll be back with another podcast later on in the week as well. So big thank you all for watching or listening. Really, really do appreciate it. If you have enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, leave a rating, all that good stuff. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you after.